knockout stage begins with the tough task of following up a group stage filled with upsets, outplays, and perhaps most dangerously, hope for the West. We start quarterfinals with LPL's Invictus Gaming looking to make their region proud by taking down tournament favorites KT Rolster in the first round of knockouts. Here we see the teams in their ready rooms just moments ago as they are gearing up for a grueling best of 5. Hello, everyone. I'm James Dash Patterson, joined by Indiana Frosker and Black, Martin DeFisciolunga, and Joshua Jat Leesman. Congratulations to the three of you for making it to the best of 5s.
Consistent
knockout stage,
to the
quarterfinals appearance. I'm proud of all three of you.
I got all
mayonnaise
three
and
seeds out.
as well, man.
Look at that. We are very much mirroring the tournament so far this year. One of the most diverse, groups, or rather, knockout stages we've had in terms of qualification. Through today's best of 5s will be served with stellar analysis from not just these magnificent minds, but also our broadcast partners, delivering knockouts so that fans all across the globe can tune in to the action. Here you see some of them. Now, today, we kick things off with the bottom half of the bracket, where tournament favorites aim to find a spot in Gwangju for the semifinals. KT Rolster aims for their spot in the top 4 versus Invictus Gaming to start the day. And then Europe's G2 Esports makes the organization's quarterfinal debut versus the LPL's Royal Never Give Up.
Yeah, looking at this bracket right now, you can see why there is a lot of hope for both Fnatic and Cloud9 when you looked at Afrika in the group stage, barely getting that first seed. And the bottom of the bracket, I have to say, KT Rolster and Invictus Gaming. That's interesting we had that as the very first matchup because that's where my eyes immediately go as far as team strength.
I mean, there's 3 super teams in the bottom of the bracket. RNG and IG, both
G2.
considered G2, both considered super teams in their respective regions.
Why are we laughing at that, guys? Come on.
Yeah, serious statements only on the analyst desk. A reminder that from here on out, the tournament is single elimination best of 5. And for quarterfinals, each side will play out their quarterfinal match on a given day until we have our final 4. Let's talk about that change, though, from best of 1s to best of 5s, and also the shortened amount of time that these teams have between groups and knockouts as compared to previous years.
I think the first thing is how it adjusted draft in particular, because obviously you can't just have 1 plan or 2 plans. You must have at least 5 plans. Side selection is also going to be rather key. I believe it's dynamic side selection, so higher seed gets to choose where they have it on 1, 3, and 5. And from there, it's just like who's going to break the Urgot Aatrox, who's going to break the LeBlanc Syndra, things like that for me.
Yeah, and I'm really interested in the IG KT series, how much IG is going to end up playing on red side. Because I feel like it's actually their better side. KT selected blue for game 1, and sometimes when these series get running, you could actually just have set sides the whole series, depending on what team's preferences are.
I just want to see what kind of meta you get within the best of 5 itself. Because in best of 1s, it's always like we have this one strategy, pull it out, go, maybe win a game, maybe not. Best of 5, you come in with a plan for the first game. If that completely backfires, you often have to change that for the next game. There might be a single pick that ends up being the most important we didn't expect. We had, like, in the past, and MF support coming in that no one saw coming, and someone decided the whole thing. It could be something like that in a best of 5.
It's also the questions of, what is left in the tank for all of these teams? Have we seen teams like Cloud9 burn all of their trump cards, or will we continue to see new picks kind of evolve the best of 5 meta as we go forward?
Yeah, the teams had their taste of adaptation in that second round robin of the group stage. Even more important here in a best of 5 with the one opponent. Now, in Worlds 2018, more so than in other years, each team came out of groups with a very distinct identity that earned them a spot in the knockouts, and these teams clash. We wanted to distill these styles down to as few words as possible. So let's start with KT Rolster.
Yeah, KT, we're kind of looking at them and saying suffocating. They are the kind of team that basically removes the amount of options you have in a game to make proactive plays against them without getting punished. And they basically force you into a situation where they will always know where you are, they'll always know what you're doing, and if you're gonna break that, you're gonna have to take a chance. You're gonna have to take a 50-50 play and try and outplay them there.
Yeah, those little overhead bins you have in playing sometimes? Just imagine you're like stuck in one of those trying to fight against like a bear. That's what it feels like playing.
Fighting a bear in an overhead bin?
Yeah, just imagine
who brings
what
a bear on the plane and puts it in the overhead bin?
The KT Rolster are huge favorites.
That analogy unraveled so quickly. I was like, all right, let's get it. I was like, small space,
you're really
compartmentalized.
But there's a bear.
Now there's a bear. Fair enough. All right, KT's opponent,
weird flights,
Invictus Gaming, have been throughout the year bringing the Lane Kingdom. This is a term I know that you guys have used across the seas.
Yeah, in the LPL, it's Lane Kingdom. It's effectively win lane, win game, and that is the Invictus Gaming motto. They have incredibly strong laners in Jackie Love, the Shy, Duke, and Rookie, and they just try to blitz you in the early game. So the pre-10 minutes, that's where they want to hit you hard, have those individual or skirmish matchups where they can just mechanically outplay you.
I feel like they've gone a little bit too far towards Lane Kingdom. And they've forgotten what happens after the laning phase, because that's where they do have issues. So if they don't win the early game, they will kind of fall apart like we saw against Fnatic.
That's the thing. You can always tell how much tape someone has watched from Invictus Gaming if they come in and they're like, IG are one of the best teams in the world.
Yeah,
I
they
think
watched
they're
the
dark
first
horse.
20 minutes.
Yeah, they're like 10 minutes, cut the tape.
Well, Lane Kingdom IG will be fun to watch go up against that more control-oriented, suffocating KT Rolster style. Unsurprisingly, though, to many, #1 seed from Group B, RNG, well, they're all in on that hyper carry strategy.
Absolutely. This is how they won MSI. It almost felt like they were funneling gold onto Uzi before funnel became a strategy throughout the summer split. And they continue to do a lot of that here, at least in the group stage. Post 15 minutes, Uzi gets 37% of the team's farm, which is more than any other player at the World Championship. So they gank for him a lot. After they gank for him, they then give him all the farm so he can carry.
The fact of the matter is that when you have a huge name like Uzi, he will sometimes just win you a game because of who he is. He is afforded a miracle maker in a best-of-5, so I expect him to pop off at least once today.
That brings us to their opponents, the EU reps, who we implored to play their style in groups. They did exactly that, and their style is quite obviously split push.
They learned during this summer split that split push is the way to go for this team. You draft very defensive bot lanes that can survive on its own, Heimerdinger being one of them, and then you try and get your two solo laners, Perks and Wander ahead in the early game. They are really, really smart and really good at executing the split push style, as long as they're not falling behind in the early game.
Another thing is like the G2 army, but for me, when I watch G2, they feel like G2 mercenaries. You've got like Wonder and Perks, and if they get assassins, if they get like these hard carries, they're just like these hitmen that hunt across the map. So that's what I get excited for in G2 games. When I see things like the Akali, the Camille, the Aurelia come up, I'm like, it's about to be spicy.
Yeah, and when RNG defers to their AD carry for farm in the late game, G2 defers to their solo laners. Actually, Wonder has the highest CS percentage between 15 and 30 minutes of all top laners at the World Championship. So it's really cool that those two are meeting up against each other later.
Yeah, they're going to split the map. Well, we mentioned Lane Kingdom earlier, and Shock's caught up with the mid laner from Invictus Gaming to get his thoughts on their quarterfinal opponent.
Thank you very much, guys. I'm here with Rookie as I caught up with him after the group stage ended. Rookie, in the end, we saw the draw and where you guys ended up as second seed. What do you think of the competition and of your quarterfinal versus KT?
네, 우선은 지금 드래프트 쇼가 막 끝난 채로 이제 인터뷰 조인하게 됐는데 결과에 대해서 어떻게 생각했는지 8강에는 어떤 경기력이 나올 것 같은지 궁금합니다.
일단 저희가 푸나틱 선수들이 확실히 잘하고 이제 저희가 이번에 실력적으로 좋다 생각해서 이렇게 아쉽게 2위로 맞췄는데 KT를 마주하게 돼서 조금 걱정은 되네요. 근데 뭐 KT도 무너질 수도 있고 이제 저희가 더 잘해지면은 이길 수 있는 확률도 있다 생각해서 저희가 도전하는 입장으로서 좀 연습 열심히 해서 가면은 오늘보다 나은 경기력으로 좀 보답할 수 있을 것 같아요.
So first of all, it's really sad to end in the second set because I think Fnatic was obviously better and that's why we lost. But I actually didn't think that we were going to be facing KT Rolster. I feel like we're the challenger. It's going to be a big struggle for us. But if we perform better and if KT become a little bit shaky, I think there are chances for us to taking them down.
And of course, there is a very interesting mid lane matchup. You're going up versus that new rookie in Yukal, who has been doing very well, and you have been performing quite well already. How do you think that matchup is going to go?
그러면 유칼 선수라는 신인 선수 미드에서 만나게 되는데 어떻게 기대하시나요?
일단 제가 요즘 개인적으로 개인의 약간 컨디션이 좀 좋다고 생각을 해서 일단 미드 라인전 정도는 제가 그래도 가볍게 이길 수 있지 않을까 생각을 하고요. 장난이고 일단 미드에서 안 지고 들어가면은 저희도 이제 그 KT 상대로 조금 비워볼 수 있지 않을까 생각을 해요.
Well, I personally think that I am performing really well right now, so I think it will be an easy laning phase for me. But just kidding, I just feel like if I do better at mid lane, it will be an easy game for the all IG players.
Okay, can I also get a quick prediction of the other match, RNG versus G2?
그러면 다른 경기 RNG G2전에 대한 예상 한번 들어볼 수 있을까요?
일단 RNG가 저희 그 LPL 팀이잖아요. 이거 당연히 RNG가 이긴다고 하는 게 맞는 것 같고, RNG 확실히 이런 큰 세계 무대나 이제 롤드컵 대회에서 너무 이제 그 멘탈적으로나 이제 게임적으로 너무 잘하니까 그런 걱정이 되진 않는 것 같아요. 그래서 G2가 잘하지만 그래도 RNG가 좀 더 한 수 위지 않을까 생각해요.
So I think RNG seems really strong there, especially they have a lot of experience. So they're really solid in both in mentality and also performance. So I feel like they will be really good. I mean, I appreciate G2 is also a really strong team, but I feel like RNG seems much stronger.
I think that is fair. Well, thank you very much, and good luck in your quarterfinal, Rookie. Thank you, Ji-sun. Back over to you guys.
Thank you very much, Shox. A very, I would say, tempered interview.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Respectful.
Recognizing that they, on the day, were the worst team against Fnatic, and that now they get to be a 2 seed challenging up. But it's an interesting mentality from a player of his caliber, right?
Yeah, and the thing is that after RNG beat Invictus Gaming in the spring semifinals, and IG had that horrific collapse and then took 4th place in the LPL, Rookie took it really hard, you know, just very head and hands down, very emotional, very upset. And he worked so hard and he carried so much of that blame on himself. He talked about how they knew that they weren't going to be playing with the Shy. He felt it was his responsibility to carry. He tried to lock in the counter matchup and he actually failed in the 1v1 across from Xiaohu, and it was one of the reasons why they slid backwards. So Rookie definitely has felt a lot of pressure on his shoulders to perform and to really carry Invictus Gaming. This is not a guy who will step backwards. He wants to step forwards.
All right, we'll see him play in not too long, but later, RNG and G2 will compete, and I don't think it's a shocker to anyone when I say that the LPL representatives are heavy favorites in this matchup.
How dare you?
Oh no, I shocked
RNG, the
Officio.
MSI champions and spring and summer
Mild
champions of the LPL. Absolutely, I think they came in as tournament favorites. We've talked a lot about their hyper carry style, giving everything to Uzi, but they did stumble a little bit in the group stage. They started 3-0, then they dropped games to both Vitality and Cloud9 before cleaning it up at the end of the day.
Yeah, they obviously ran a lot of like single damage comps where it was just about Uzi, and then everyone else were like tanks or bruisers around him. And it didn't really work because it was too slow, and a lot of teams were kind of forcing fights against him before Uzi got to a point where he could be a carry. So that style actually seemed effective against RNG, but they obviously changed towards the end. Lucian came in, Kalista, more early game picks.
I also do think it was an individual breakdown of some key players like Let Me. He was not performing on that last day. He frankly just got outclassed by the likes of Licorice, and I think that going into a best of 5, he needs to return to his domestic performance. He's known as the 50-50 top laner, that no matter what it is, he's just going to make a potato versus potato and neutralize everything.
Yeah, and I think when they did lose the games, it was to like Draven in laning phase, trying to run Uzi over. G2 comes into the quarterfinals with the lowest or the slowest average game time of all teams in group stage at 38 minutes. I do feel like RNG can actually still play late game and find some success.
I will say this, though. They had that exact same thing in the LPL, and they were still able to compete with a team like Invictus Gaming in the finals, who do play that very fast style.
All right, well, you already hit on G2 being one of the slower teams coming out of the group stages here in the quarterfinals. My question is, given that they did not have the option of playing against Afrika, of the other three teams they could draw into, I think, first glance, people are saying, oh my God, this is terrifying for them, RNG tournament favorite. But Officio, what are you thinking in terms of how the draw played out for G2?
So I think RNG was the best possible draw for them. I think G2 versus Fnatic all year long has been heavily Fnatic favored, so that would not be a good matchup for them. I think KT can match the split push style very well. I think RNG are the only team who's kind of locked in this team fight style around Uzi. And if you do play 1-3-1 with 2 very strong solo laners, I can see stylistically you actually match up pretty well against RNG. So you have to pick one of the 3. I think G2 are actually not too unhappy with this one. Mainly because, as you highlighted, Let Me has not looked that great. Xiaohu has been kind of invisible in a lot of these games. Perks and Wonder, they can do a lot of work against these 2 guys.
I think you're using too soft of language when you say kind of invisible. I actually think Xiaohu has been invisible. And the last time we saw...
I want to be a nice guy, but fair enough.
Well, the last time that we saw Xiaohu and Perks go toe-to-toe, Xiaohu did get the better of that matchup, you know, all the way back in a throwback at a different international tournament. But this time around, I actually think mid lane will really decide this between these 2 teams.
Well, what I like about the matchup as well for G2 is if you're trying to go up against RNG and beat them through their bottom lane, I feel like in a best of 5, that's almost never going to happen. G2 doesn't even try for that. I think Hjarnan and Wadid have actually performed a lot better than people's expectations because they've shifted their own mindset of what they're trying to do in lane phase. They pick Heimerdinger, they pick Brand, they pick Jhin. They don't try and become that late game hyper carry, but instead they do play their own game. And this Heimerdinger that everyone says should be permabanned, that is completely undefeated, we've been talking, and we think RNG is going to let it through in the first game so they don't have to ban all 5 games to try and win the series right off the bat.
One of the primary weaknesses of RNG is the fact that they do sometimes fumble drafts. They can be quite an arrogant team. They talked about how they let the Zillion through when they faced Jensen because they wanted to see how it's going to go. I expect that the Heimer will be played, or at least that G2 will have the opportunity to play it. And now the question for me is whether Hjarnan wants to throw down the gauntlet and actually prove that he's the best Heimer.
In game 1, if it's open against
He's got it.
you take the Heimer.
have to.
Because if you win, it's going to get banned next game, and you know what they're going to ban then.
Without a doubt. Well, that is our second series of the evening. We're stepping away. When we return, though, we go over how the story of KT Rolster versus Invictus Gaming goes well beyond 2018 and break. Welcome back. It's World's Countdown and KT Rolster. Invictus Gaming, they're clashing in just a few minutes. Before we get to that series, though, and as the #1 seed from the LCK loads up onto the stage, KT Rolster, let's recap kind of the heartbreaking history of this organization up to this point.
Yeah, a lot of ups and downs. Obviously, it is a StarCraft organization that entered League of Legends in 2012. 2013 is when you got the first big moment for a lot of Western fans. It was Ryu versus Faker in the famous Z versus Z duel, Game 5. They end up losing the Summer Split final here in 2013. 2014, however, is when they win their first season. It is KT Arrows with Kakao coming in the jungle. Rookie was actually the mid laner, Someday as well on the team.
This
was kind of the big thing for
pick
KT.
best of 5s.
Of course,
you saw double Maokai in that game.
Long time ago.
Double Maos.
Yeah, since then, though, we saw so many Korean players go to China. They all came back to KT Rolster to really play with Score. They built this super team around Score to try not only win an LCK championship for Score, but to win a world championship. And they didn't even make it to Worlds in 2017. So the team decided to stay together when many thought they could break apart. But this time, they get the championship for Score, and now they come into Worlds as one of the favorites.
Yeah, without a doubt. KT Rolster face off against their former mid laner, Rookie, who during the Korean exodus to the LPL dedicated himself to succeeding on this roster.
Now, Invictus Gaming are older than the LPL itself. They were founded in 2011. The LPL didn't exist till 2013. And like you just said, Rookie came over with that big Korean migration, but he stayed. It's what we call in the LPL a career Korean. You know, he has really cut his teeth in this league and made it his own. He is the best mid laner in the LPL. Everyone has Rookie on their hit list, and unfortunately, though, when it comes to the clutch time, when he is standing in that spotlight, Rookie has come just short. He finally got his first chance at an LPL final just this 2018 summer, tried to go the distance, went to all 5 games.
Almost got back.
And he was clutch himself, but IG have still been unable to put it together. So a lot of hopes and dreams riding on a good international performance, especially after the 2015 blowout.
Well, Rookie's journey has brought him here, opposite the super teams at UCal, the youngest player in the tournament.
Yeah, and I think actually he's ended up being way better than we expected coming into this tournament. We always knew he was going to be a great player. He's a top 20 player at Worlds. However, it was a lot about other members on the team for us, like Score and Mata. They were kind of names you would look at. But Yuka, to me, has actually been the best performing player on this team during the group stage. And that is fantastic now that they're facing Rookie, the best mid laner in the world.
And he is the main difference between the 2017 KT team and now, because we don't have Pawn in the mid lane anymore. But going up against Rookie, I think, is an amazing matchup. Rookie was the most lane-dominant player in the group stage, and that was in a group against Caps. He averaged plus 24 CSD at 15, which is actually absurd. Like 10 is an impressive CSD at 15, and Rookie got up to 24. But going up against the 17-year-old UCal, I can't wait to see how that matchup plays out, because I feel like Rookie is one of the only IG win conditions.
I agree, and UCal is, at this point, a star player, but not the main win condition on KT.
He's an insurance policy.
Yeah. Exactly. He can actually just go even in his lane, and they should be able to get advantage in the bottom lane or in the jungle matchup.
So I get a sense already around this mid lane matchup that perhaps we're giving an edge to IG in that one. But I want to pull up the scorecard for all of the positions across both of these teams and get a sense of who you guys think has an advantage and where.
And I don't think it's just the mid lane. I think we all agree that it's the solo lanes in general for Invictus Gaming. If they can isolate those 1v1s, especially because it's the shy starting up in that top lane, get Rookie a good counter pick, red side Rookie is a thing that exists in the LPL. We've seen it on the international stage, then that should go the favor for IG.
Definitely agree. Solo laners will go IG favorite. To me, jungle matchup for sure goes to KT, and then down in the bottom lane as well. I think the biggest difference is Mata versus Baolan in the support role. Baolan has really struggled when he was needed as a playmaker, as a main engage tool. He's not been able to hit a lot of skill shots on things like Leona, where I feel like Mata has played almost perfect.
Yeah, and I think it's a mismatch across the entire bottom lane. We actually came to a consensus on the order of those check marks, and we saw Jackie Love in the group stage be a very inconsistent, unreliable player, whereas Deft was a consistent, reliable player, and you add that to the fact that you also have Mata versus Baolan, as Deficio just mentioned, and that's where I feel like KT gets their largest edge.
Well, 2:30 ahead of game time in the opening ceremony of the teams. I want to know from you guys, who's going to take our first quarterfinal series of Worlds 2018? Down the line, can KT suffocate the Lane Kingdom?
I just think that KT have more options in terms of their win conditions. I think they can carry from more positions onto the map. I think they can play both the early game as well as the late game. They certainly cleaned that up in summer. They showcased it in their best of 5 across from Griffin. So I am going to go KT Rolster 3-1. I think that one victory does go to the fact that you have counterpick for Rookie. IG do hit hard. I think KT will stumble once, try to take a skirmish, and maybe just get outslapped in the mud wrestling.
All right, Deficio, what are you thinking?
I got KT as well. I almost put 3-0, but then I saw IG will get at least 2 games on red side. I figured they might win one of them. But to me, Mata versus Baolan and then Score versus Ning, it's too heavily favored towards KT. They can go to mid and stop Rookie from taking over the game, and that's going to be the main thing for them.
And Jat, do you fall in line?
I think this is an incredibly tough series to call. Right now, I have KT winning at 3-2.
Okay.
When IG loses best of 5s, they typically lose them in the 5th game. That happened twice against RNG. And there's so many different versions of IG that show up, whether or not you see Jackie Love actually have a consistent performance, because that does actually happen sometimes. It's just not been able to happen in the big moments. And I think KT, even though they haven't won that many championships, have more experience in this matchup.
Definitely a series that could go the distance. To bring us into the series, though, and kick off the quarterfinals, it's time to hand it off to Captain Flowers, Papa Smithy, and Kobe.
Thank you very much, Dash, and welcome to KT Rolster versus Invictus Gaming. I'm Clayton Captain Flowers Reigns, and for knockouts, I've brought a classic 1-2 punch here with Chris, Papa Smithy Smith, and Sam, Kobe, Hartman, Kinsler. Gentlemen, we are into the bracket stage.
I know, and it is so exciting. Starting off the bat with a very, very high-profile game, KT Rolster versus IG.
KT, IG, and RNG on one side of the bracket is a lot of people ripping out their hair when it comes to favorites for this tournament. A lot of people had IG up there. There's seeds of doubt today because of recency, right? Because IG did struggle against Fnatic, but IG do have that firepower. And game 1, to me, is kind of the acid test. If IG lose it, then I think KT really jumps up in chances to win.
And we should talk about one of the starting players in here. The Shy is going to be the starting top laner for Invictus Gaming. We recently saw them with Duke, who also had a good performance, but this time around we do expect some firepower for the top lane and those matchups.
It should definitely be a fun matchup to see here, whether it goes 3, 4, or 5. Hopefully we're going to get some fireworks in the quarterfinals, and now it's time to meet our first 2 quarterfinalists. We're going to throw it down to Caster